It's time for the Onyx News. Extraterrestrials, time anomalies, dimensions, remote viewing, UFOs, UAPs, and USOs, ghostly encounters, abductions, Bigfoot, and more. Your end of the week news source for everything unexplained. Here is your host for the Onyx News Podcast, Margie Kay.
Good evening and welcome everyone. I'm Margie Kay and this is Onyx News. We're here every Friday evening at 6 p.m. Central Time. We just got back from the UFO festival in Livingston, Illinois. It's called the Route 66 UFO Festival. It was fantastic. I highly recommend it. Lots of fun. I spoke twice and Debbie Ziegelmeyer spoke as well. And so we were the main speakers for the event, but next year promises to be bigger and better, and they're going to have more speakers. So I highly recommend it. Take a look at Route 66 UFO Festival. Also, we've got a big listing of conferences worldwide, of course, on the Onyx Network at onyxnetwork.com. And so if you want to know what's going on in the near future and the far future, take a look and make your plans accordingly. My guest this evening is Barbara With. Barbara is an international peace activist, award-winning author, publisher, psychic channel, composer, and performer, and co-founder of Conflict Revolution, World Peace, one person at a time, starting with self, a revolutionary way to resolve conflicts of the psyche as a pathway to world peace based on her work channeling the angels and Albert Einstein. She has authored 6 nonfiction books on metaphysics and trains conflict resolution in the classroom and on Zoom. She is currently on a world peace tour, calling out to the participation of the willing for a worldwide nonviolent action to end the age of war, starting with self. She's traveling the world, training conflict resolution and presenting her Einstein's unified field theory, maps of human consciousness, and the science of compassion. Welcome to the program, Barbara.
Thank you so much for having me, Margie.
Well, it's so nice to have you. I just love your subject matter, and I took a look at your websites. You do fantastic work, and of course, you've got books, you've got music, and you're a creator and a wonderful singing voice. As a musician, I can tell you I know what I'm talking about.
Well, thank you.
So that's wonderful. And I've got to, I think we're just going to start off with, how did you manage to get in touch with Einstein?
Oh man, Einstein. He came into the picture in about 1998. And I'd already been channeling. My first book had come out, Diaries of a Psychic Sorority. And that was the documentation of me starting to do group channeling with Kim and Teresa and we called ourselves the Psychic Sorority. And after that book came out, a tabloid, a metaphysical tabloid in London, got a hold of my agent and wondered if I could do an afterlife interview with Princess Di on the 1-year anniversary of her death.
Oh, wow.
And I was really kind of shocked and skeptical because, well, there's a long story that leads up to this, obviously, but I had just learned that I was talking to angels and could communicate with people who had passed on, but I never thought in a million years of going to a dead person and asking if I could talk to them.
Oh, so that was new to you.
Well, they were coming to me. They would communicate with me and I would get to the living person.
I see.
So this was the first time anybody had said, well, hey, can you talk to Princess Di? And I know there's other psychics who do it different ways, let's go talk to your dad. That wasn't how I worked. But I did it. I channeled the questions and the answers and I typed them and printed them off and read it back to myself and just wept. It was so deep and intense. And the tabloid flew me out to New York, spent 5 hours with me, peppering me with psychic questions.
Mm-hmm.
And then they didn't want it.
Oh, wow.
And I'm sure it's because there wasn't anything about Charles and Camilla or any dirt on anybody.
Okay, right. Not tabloid worthy.
Right. Even though it was
Mhm.
metaphysical tabloid, it wasn't tabloid worthy. So my agent and I just were like, well, wow, maybe there's other famous dead people who want to do this now that I know I could communicate. We made this list, and sadly, Einstein wasn't even on it.
Okay.
So the next one up was Nicole Brown Simpson.
All
OJ,
right.
he had just been also a year prior found not guilty. And we got to John Kennedy, and he said, first of all, this isn't your idea. We are a group of souls here in Afterlife who've been working with you and working for world peace, famous people who've died.
Oh.
And we will tell you who's coming up because we're already working. It wasn't your idea to do this. And so Jackie O came up, and then Einstein. And when I channeled Einstein, it was the voice of all the channeling I'd ever done. It was
Oh,
I
okay.
had no idea what to make of it. And it took me about 3 years of being like, are people going to think I'm crazy? And it's sure intriguing, and it resonates with me, but I just didn't quite know what to think of it. But I did publish Party of 12, the Afterlife interviews, which were those 12 interviews introduced by John Kennedy Jr. And then in 2005, it was the 100-year anniversary of E = MC squared.
Oh, right.
And I thought, well, I wonder what Einstein would say. Let's do a little book just for Einstein. No idea, had no concept of what I expected him to say, but he literally came out and through the channeling with a unified field theory, a conceptual one, not mathematical,
Okay.
complete with what he called the map of human consciousness, because you can't have physical reality without the intermingling of human consciousness, apparently. And he gave us a scientific, quantifiable definition of compassion with a capital C, like as the 5th fundamental force of the universe. It's like a universal force, and it does very specific things, just like electromagnetics sort of ignites things, and gravity kind of guides things, and the strong nuclear force repels and attracts things, and the weak nuclear force transforms things, from 1 to 2. And those are the real scientific 4 fundamental forces. Well, he said this was the 5th one. It was the intelligence that uses all of those forces to impel the creation of the universe 1 step at a time. And that was also very heady, because I'm not a scientist and I'm not a physicist. I'm a singer and a composer and apparently a psychic. So, but I published that book the next year, and it got me invited all around the world to speak and channel and teach the process that I had developed, conflict revolution. And really the culmination of it just last summer in 2005, July 2005 in Barcelona, I delivered my unified field theory after 20 years at the Science of Consciousness conference, to the scientists, to Nassim Haramein and all of the Nobel Prize winning scientists. They weren't there watching me, but I was delivering it. And now I see those people, and not because they heard me, but just all this work we've done to bring this to the surface of consciousness of how things work. So yeah, it's a wild story. It's been a wild ride.
In my work with investigating UFOs, for instance, and all paranormal, Uh, one of the conclusions I've come to is that the experience or the experiencer, it's based on the experiencer's level of consciousness and their state of consciousness at the time. If they're in an altered state, they will be receptive. And it's my theory that the person actually moves himself into a higher dimension where all of these other things are: ETs, interdimensional beings, etc. So I wonder what your thoughts are on that. Do you think that's a viable theory?
I do. And I think because oftentimes Einstein has been asked this question in groups and what have you about what is extraterrestrials? And when you see his unified field theory and the map of human consciousness and the map of Earth and how everything gets created, it's like its own domain. Our universe is its own domain, and then our bodies are our own domain. It's microcosm and macrocosm, and that there are other universes that have different sets of how energy works or how they manifest, and that rules aren't always the same. So when they I don't know what the word would be, pass through the electromagnetic boundary of our universe, they show up in particular ways that I think, like you said, people who are highly attuned, whether you did it consciously or you were born with a gift or whatever, or you intentionally can do it, you raise yourself to the ability to take in more and more information, and then you can see them, and then you have experience with them. But I don't think they come from like other planets in really fast rocket ships. I think it's
Right.
really interdimensional.
They're here in this space all the time.
Yes, exactly.
Close to us, just interdimensional. So, how do you manage to contact persons who are deceased? Do you put yourself in a meditative state?
I don't, to a great deal. I say that I'm like a marathon runner who then would go out to do a couple miles. When I sit down to channel, I'm doing these Saturday morning classes right now where we do about an hour and a half. And I found a way to kind of coexist with the truth of it rather than going in and out of it.
Right.
So I certainly always proceed with the great prayers of gratitude and protection and calling in the highest good and all of that. But it's an interesting state, I think, that I've achieved in my life to be able to move between them.
I'll tell you what, I understand exactly where you're coming from on that. I call it dual consciousness.
Yes.
Where I put part of my brain in deep state and then the other is completely fully awake, fully here in the moment.
And are you finding lately that they are even operating more independently of each other, but still in a unified way? Because I'm finding I'm able to be listening over here to this, and then something else is happening here, and I can kind of have two screens at one time that I'm able to perceive each of them and do that data differently. I don't know. It's
yeah, no, I totally understand. You and I are a lot alike.
Yeah.
So we'll get along great.
Okay. Yes, that's good. They're so beautiful.
Oh my goodness. And so is there a general message from all of these people, JFK, Einstein, everybody, that they want the world to know? Is there one main message they want to give us?
Yes, and just to give some context to it, I had started out being a musician and a composer. So that was my whole focus of what I want to be a rock star. And I started writing music when I was 12, and I went out on the road when I was 17. So that was my direction. So when I started to channel, I knew what it was. My friend's mom had been a psychic, and so I kind of knew what it was. But when I started to actually become a channel and then channel groups, I was an antenna. And when I started channeling the groups with the psychic sorority, and they asked, "Who are you?" They said, "You can call us angels." And these angels said, "We have a theory about how humans can resolve conflict first within their own energy field, where the byproduct will be world peace. Because whatever is going to be going on in here, if you change it here, then you will naturally be able to it will naturally project and manifest into the world. And we need humans to test our theory on real conflicts." So that became the psychic sorority's mission. And sure enough, we had our first fight, and this is 1994. And that this was the beginning of the development of what we now call conflict revolution. So this theory that they had, they wanted to teach us, that we then have been putting to the test for 40 years, became conflict revolution in 1999, when I first started training what we had been learning and putting to the test amongst us. And that's the message. That was the message of the party, was that these famous dead people, really were kind of hidden amongst those angels. And probably some of them were involved in helping me write music when I was 12. So it was a kind of a lifelong training for me. But Diana, her message right from the start is, if everybody who put flowers at the palace when I died did conflict revolution, there'd be world peace in a day. And they all came, those 12 came together, and they each have a piece of culture. So Freud talks about psychology and sexuality, and Einstein talks about his slice of culture, and Freud, and and psychology. Anyway, they all had a piece of it, but that's their message, and it's been my message ever since, which is why I'm kind of on a perpetual world peace tour, to help people understand the most important way for us to bring peace and manifest peace is to do our own work. And it's hard to do. It's the hardest work to do, and you don't think you see any difference. But that's what this research and development in the conflict revolution has documented through the years. And I tell you, speaking to the scientists after all those years, and then sort of being vindicated by having them confirm, then I'm even more excited about doing my own work and continuing to work for peace.
Do you think that people are listening? Do you think there are more people now in the world who are interested in peace rather than war?
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh. When I did the first workshop of conflict revolution in 1999, it was at a nonprofit, a economic development nonprofit, staff development. And I would say 20% of the participants had their exciting aha moment. Like they got their aha moment that you walk away with. 40% thought it was really interesting. And then 20% said it was just kind of rubbish. Today in 2025, and I've probably done over 200 podcasts in the past 2 years, just since I left my life and went on this focus. So many people just get it. So many, especially young people, the young podcasters who just are like, oh, this and this and this. And, that's decades of going through where culture back in the 90s, if you said emotion is the root of some of your illness, you'd be completely woo-woo. Now, there's a lot of medical studies that.
Yeah, it's well accepted. Absolutely.
So I'd say yes. And now, with as crazy as the world is, I think especially the political divide, I think the great purpose in the political divide is to slap us all across the face and say, is this really what you want to fight about? Is it really what you want to fight about? And, you know, it's
Yeah.
it's a hard slog, but if that's the way that we have to learn, then God bless us.
Yeah. Politics is pretty crazy right now. It seems to be getting worse and worse. It's difficult to watch. Okay. Let's go to your music for a minute.
Okay.
I'd like to play this this piece that you wrote, and hopefully this is going to work. And then we'll talk about it.
Okay.
Okay, so that's not enough for me. Let me play another short clip here.
Well, which one are you going to play?
Do you want to do Gravity
Yes.
or that one? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Wow, such a lovely voice.
Thank you so much.
What's the inspiration for your music?
It's very psychically created. When I first started writing, I described it as going into outer space and listening for the song that was already written.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd bring in 4 bars and I'd sing that, and then I'd bring in the next 4. So it hasn't ever been the kind of songwriting process that I see a lot of songwriters. Well, I'm going to sit down and craft or whatever. Most of them are channeled. And the Earthbound was actually, I wrote that in, I'm going to say 1988.
Oh, wow.
And I was dating a guy in the Air Force. And I drove all the way to Texas. He was in Del Rio, and we broke up. And that was right before we broke up because he just didn't want to come out of the skies, you know. But when I finally got in the studio to record in 1994, I had just started channeling with Kim and Teresa, and we were channeling the angels. And so it had an entirely different meaning.
Yeah.
Completely different meaning. So a lot of times my songs are like that. And even Gravity, I wrote in 1997. And it was because Kim and we were the two who had the most fighting research between us. And we were talking about how, you know, resistance, you know, what you resist persists. But if you're walking, right, you need to have resistance. Otherwise, you're going to slip out from under yourself.
Right.
So I didn't even know that I was about to channel Einstein when I wrote that song. And basically I wrote it for my friend Kim, but they're pretty magical.
All right. You have got a lot going on. And one of the things you do is classes. Now, are these classes live or are they virtual and recorded or on demand?
There's both. I have the top of the line is my master class on the unified field theory. It's just the extensive, and with video and music options online these days, I was able to produce this beautiful, beautiful masterclass on the unified field theory. But then I have one on conflict revolution. I've got some download meditations of aligning ourselves to sort of remagnetizing ourselves.
Mhm.
But I also I'm in the middle right now, depending on when this airs, I'm doing a timeline healing 4-part class. And it's very hard to schedule something where everybody all around the world can come live. And it kind of frustrates me because so much of the great part of it's conversation. But you're also able to then download it and at least have some conversation with me about it to follow up with it. And so I do those on a regular basis. This winter, I'm going to do a book club for Party of 12, where we're going to read chapter by chapter and then talk about how the whole thing fits in and all kinds of fascinating things about it. And all that's on barbarawith.com.
All right. barbarawith.com. We are going to take a short break and we'll be back right after these messages.
The Onyx Network presents a health and wellness spiritually based brand of hemp-derived CBD products made by Hopewell Farm in Harrogate, Tennessee. We apply our Kathara energy work with all of our plants and products. Our products made in small batches with only 2 ingredients of pure hemp, full spectrum crude oil, and coconut-derived MCT oil. Third-party lab tested for potency and legal THC levels with 6 strengths of 1 ounce oil to choose from. Know what you're buying and get what you pay for from Hopewell Farm. Applied directly to a specific area, Hopewell Farm topical salve in 1 ounce and ½ ounce sizes made with pure hemp crude oil, comfrey extract, and all natural ingredients. Find the Hopewell Farm link and coupon code on the Onyx Network website at onyxnetwork.com. That's onyxnetwork.com. The new book, How to Research a Haunted House by paranormal investigator Margie Kay and professional researcher Violet Wisdom, is now available from Onyx Media. This one-of-a-kind book explains how to do research on a house with uncommon methods and resources used by historic home researchers, and how to determine who may be doing the haunting and why. How to Research a Haunted House can be used by homeowners, renters, investors, and it should be in the library of all professional paranormal investigators. Get this unique book at unxmedia.com or amazon.com. That's unxmedia.com or amazon.com.
And we're back with Onyx News. I'm Margie Kay, and we're speaking with Barbara With this evening. Very interesting lady, very complicated lady. And we're chatting about a lot of things. I'm looking at your website right now, and one of your healing class starts coming up next, I believe. One of the things, subjects is walking through death, awakening to life, timeline healing. Can you just give us a little overview about what that means?
Timelines are basically past lives. So we, in our circle of work with Einstein, call them concurrent lives because they're actually happening concurrently. Different space-time bodies in different latitudes and longitudes, different lenses, etc. But they all meet up in the source, and now they call them timelines. It took me a while to understand what that meant, but when you see the unified field theory and you see how it actually works, that some life I'm living in Ireland in 900 can be bleeding through into my body here in, Lake Superior in 2025. And so people don't know that, though. And it's very hard on the psyche when you're bringing up, and in our model of the human, we call them the 3 human dimensions that we work with in conflict revolution, and that are all a part of this unified field theory, emotion, intuition, and intellect. And what's happening is our bodies here in this time, for whatever reason, are able to feel the thoughts, feelings, and senses, the emotion, intuition, and intellect of these other lives. And they're coming through our bodies. And a lot of times, it shows up just in a simple way of, and we've all had this, where you're in a setting where nothing's going on, and suddenly you're terrified, or you're panicked, or there's some big emotion that emerges up, and there's nothing outside you that's triggering it. Nobody's threatening you. And I think that root of sort of mystery of the psyche is something that psychologists and psychiatrists are, constantly studying. Where does it come from? How do you do it? How do you deal with that? Is it an anxiety attack? Is there something actually in your body? And so in this class, what I'm doing is we start with, first of all, ourselves, just me, Barbara, with no other lives, no other timelines. And I walk you through the structure of how the operating system works, sort of like taking a class on how to tune up a car. You've got the spark plugs, you've got this, you've got the distributor, and this is how they work independently, and this is how you fix them independently, but this is how they work together. And then as we nurture what we call the witness, so that you can step outside yourself and sort of watch all this, you can begin to understand why you have blockages, where you have blockages, what to do with that, say, anxiety or that panic attack, how to process emotion in a way that's regenerative, so it doesn't get squashed down and it doesn't get projected onto somebody else in a, kind of degenerative way. And once we learn it for ourselves, now we take the other lives and we take the myriad, I think, of other lives and timelines that we have access to. And it's my theory that, some people can experience many different timelines, many different lives they have. And other people maybe just have a few different lives. And I just think it's a matter of capacity. Some people didn't come here to have this great capacity to be able to process this kind of deep information, and other people have. So it turns out the class that I'm teaching now, these people are so high level and are so aware already of what's going on that I'm just like a slight guide to them, not like some great teacher bringing down stuff they don't know, just organizing it in a way so they can liberate themselves and unify themselves.
I understand that, because with people that I'm working with, the same thing. They're high level. They're very, very knowledgeable. They just need a little bit of guidance and to get where they want to be. There's one thing that you mentioned. We're experiencing all these lifetimes at the same time, basically. There's something that I see when I do readings for people. Once in a while, there's something there that is obviously not coming from this particular lifetime currently, that is a residual thing that's left over, like a spear in the side or a knife in the arm, or
being hung or drowning.
Yes. So why is it that crosses over into this particular life?
Well, I think the whole push of human evolution is about bringing this awareness while we're in this body. So I wouldn't pretend to know the mind of God as to why, the one woman that I did a reading for in Budapest had jumped off a wall in a past life in India, and then it turned out in real life, I didn't know this, she jumped off the bridge into the Danube and landed on the concrete.
Oh.
Why, how does that bleed through? And why is it sometimes? And I'm like you, Margie. I've had so many readings where people come and I just do a past life and I say these things and they're like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. And like their bodies resonate. And I don't know if you find this, but just knowing it kind of in that moment, there's a liberation from it. Like there's a kind of a, could have had a whatever. And I think it's just a beautiful mystery to watch it unfold.
It is. And there are some things you can do to release an energy like that. But I do have a few people where they're very stubborn and don't seem to be able to release that. Why do you think that is?
Well, it goes back to what I was describing in my class, is that I figured that if I teach you first conflict resolution, where you can align your dimensions, 3 human dimensions, to compassion, as we call it, and there's a very specific process. If you can do it for yourself, you conquer that intellect ego that is in charge and wants to stay in charge. But the way the system works is, and this is just a really simple difference in how we generally approach life. One is emotion doesn't need to be connected to intellect. You don't need to release these pent-up feelings and other lives' feelings. You want to disconnect from your thinking. You want to have like a mantra that says, I don't need to know why I feel this. I need to just sit here with my breath and move this feeling, whether it's from this life, whether it's from last week, whether it's from another life, and just move it. Because in present moment, here it is. And once we start to do that, we start to sort of empty out this basement of, abscess that we have without projecting it onto someone or trying to analyze what place it happens. There's this enormous liberation that begins to happen. But it's the intellect that actually facilitates the decision-making process. So if your intuition tells you turn left, the energy that puts your arm on the hand on the steering wheel, turning isn't from your heart and your intuition. It's from your intellect and your head. That's the mechanism that has free will to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And you can know you're supposed to say, this is my favorite, and we all have been through this. Intuition says rest. Rest. Your body says rest. Your intellect says, oh, heck no, I've got 163 things to do and I'm going to go do them. And then you can go do them. And then suddenly you're getting in fights with people and you're all frustrated and maybe you're getting sick and you're creating conflicts.
Mm-hmm.
That's why people hang on to anything, is because that ego has been in control and it's got to learn a new role within the whole team, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. That really does. Okay, one of the things you do looks like a podcast called the Psychic Sorority Radio Network. So how long have you been doing that?
I've been on YouTube probably since 2009. And I did, when COVID started, in the very beginning of COVID, I did a weekly show with the Psychic Sorority. Just friends of mine who showed up and we'd channel and talk. And I did that pretty steady for a couple of years. And now at a pretty regular pace, I have a lot of free meditations, a lot of free channeling. Mm-hmm. I'm not someone who uses YouTube to monetize. It's like my place, my library, where people who find me. I'm probably one of the few podcasters who are proud that after all those years, I think I have 269 followers, because there's something really important to me about having the purity of it. It's not about all that. It's about having that there. And there's so much in that library if people want to go.
And having that available for the right people to see, and you know, where they need to go and what they need to see at that moment in their life. That's a really good attitude. I've tried the monetization. I will tell you that it doesn't work. There's no money in YouTube, and you know they put roadblocks in your way all the way. So it's about getting the message out.
Yeah, I think so. And just really quickly, I have this little story about manifestation and about music. You know, all I ever had wanted to be was a rock star. And so in about 1978, I'd been performing since 1972, I think. So my agent came to me and said, Stevie Nicks was looking for a protege, a young woman to produce who wrote original music. And she wanted to submit me. And for all of what I thought I wanted, I said no. And I said no for two reasons. One is because she was a really bad coke head. She was really badly into drugs.
Oh.
And the other was that I wasn't really a big Fleetwood Mac fan. And because I started writing music to have my voice, not to craft songs to be a rock star, but to have my voice, to voice my trauma, etc. It was just so natural for me to go, no, I don't want to do that. Well, of course I got fired, because who wouldn't, if you thought you want to be a rock star, take that opportunity. And years later, I can see that if I would have taken that money, there would have been a whole series of things that would have probably destroyed me, but also put me into a lifestyle where now I'm beholden to the money.
Yeah.
And I think in a way I'm just really hypersensitive about how right a decision that was, even though I got fired. And of course I felt like a failure.
Right.
Now I look back and I think, yeah, that was about my integrity.
Well, that lifestyle is very rough on a person. Sometimes, I mean, it goes as far as to kill people, because they get into drugs. They travel a lot, don't sleep very much, and then they've got to take uppers and downers just to keep going, kind of like actors do. And they, especially, you know, in the 30s and 40s, they really pushed actors, and they, you know, had them on these drugs, and it's a downhill spiral. So you made the right decision, in my opinion.
Well,
You really did.
And also because clearly there was a mission and a path and a fate that I came here to do that I had absolutely no idea about, with going in and becoming a channel and channeling Einstein and going on this world. Much better. So glad. So glad I didn't become a rock star.
I think your guys were pretty responsible for that.
Yes.
Guiding you in the right direction. So that's wonderful. Oh gosh, you've got so much going on. Is there anything, I know you've got this coursework coming up pretty soon. Are you traveling? Are you speaking anywhere that we need to let everybody know about?
I am in the process of getting ready to go south for the winter, where I live in Georgia in the winter. And I think just signing up at the website, because I've got about 2 or 3 different classes I'm going to bring out this winter. I'm having so much fun already in this timeline healing one. And I've applied for the Science of Consciousness Conference 2026 in Phoenix in April. I've been invited to come to Bangkok to the Science and Psychology Conference, spirituality and yes, I can say it, Spirituality and Psychology Conference, put on by a group out of Serbia, and they do it in Bangkok. And I'm hoping that as the winter progresses, that I'll be able to do some traveling and do some smaller groups. And if anybody is interested in hosting an event, you can reach out. I'm also a public speaker. I do a lot of that, and I'm always looking for a conference and I see you've got some. You were talking about coming from a UFO conference. Do you know Steve Ward?
No.
Okay, well,
No.
that's neither here nor there. But he's
No,
a UFO guy too. But anyway, yeah, just keep abreast at barbarawitt.com, and there's always something going on. And about every week or so, I put out some new content, some new meditation. I've got some backup. I'm backed up a bit, but this beautiful heart-opening meditation I did the other day, and Einstein channels are always fascinating, always making me think. So,
Oh, so you'll do live channeling.
yeah.
Oh, that is awesome. Tell me about one of the most interesting live channels you've done.
Oh gosh. I think one of the most interesting to me was when I finally came out of the closet that I was not just channeling angels.
Mhm.
I had put it off for years. I met the party in 1998, and I published Party of 12 in 2001, July 2001. And after 9/11, I thought, you have all this incredible information and you're not fessing up because why? You think people are going to say you're crazy and blah, blah, blah. So I called a group in my living room. There's about 35 of us. And I did the whole party. So Anwar al-Sadat, who was the Egyptian leader who had been murdered, Jesus of Nazareth, Johnny Versace, the whole party was there, and they were talking. The people were asking these questions about, like they asked John Kennedy about, well, what are we supposed to do about George W. Bush? Because he was the guy at the time, and me at the time, I thought, while I was channeling, I was thinking to myself, what in the world are they gonna say about that? And John Kennedy came in with this absolutely presidential answer that I couldn't quote to you today, but I remember thinking, wow, that is just a super answer. And they all didn't agree on everything. Like,
Oh, they didn't.
no. Somebody asked about what to do with Osama bin Laden. And I think probably John F. Kennedy was more diplomatic, but Anwar al-Sadat, who had been assassinated by one of bin Laden's guys, said, no, you don't let a rabid dog run through the street. And that was another surprise. It was like, wow, this isn't just, like, oh, we're all in heaven now. It's like,
no, they still have their personalities and their opinions.
Yeah, and we wanted that wisdom from them, if I knew then what I know now, kind of thing. But I just thought that was one of the most, and to this day, because I don't know the details, like I didn't know that Sigmund Freud and Albert Einstein actually corresponded and with a very specific purpose, and they had this open dialogue about how do you stop war in real life.
Yeah.
I didn't know any of that. So I'm learning as I go just how accurate this channeling is.
Did you channel, or have you channeled Reagan?
I haven't.
Because I wonder, his wife was in contact with a famous psychic.
Right, remember?
And she gave her guidance, and then she would tell Reagan, and I think they followed some of it. So I would be interested to know, what he felt about that guidance.
That would be really interesting. There's so many people that,
there are.
You want to talk to. So I started a second book a while back called The Party's Over. And I was going to do a series of famous people who had been prematurely taken or whatever. And it started with Kurt Cobain.
Oh, okay.
That's really interesting. But that's in my autobiography. I decided to put that in there, along with the former CEO of Enron, Cliff Baxter,
Oh,
who allegedly committed suicide. And
did you ask him about that?
yeah, oh yeah, that interview's in my autobiography, and it's very, very detailed and intense.
Okay.
And now, all these years later, you know, when we know so much more on the other side of Enron and what was happening, because I did it right after he had been unalived.
That is one way to put it. Yes. Disappeared.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I am working on a consciousness conference right now for next year. So I will be in touch with you.
Please ask me.
Yes, I will. I'm asking you now live.
Okay, I will. I whenever,
Yeah.
or wherever.
Yeah.
We'll make it happen. I love that.
My followers know I'm into many subjects, and one of them is consciousness. So we're doing it. Got a good, nice lineup of speakers, and it's going to be wonderful. And I think you would be a perfect fit, virtual, online conference.
All the better.
Yeah, I think so. Because the days of getting an expensive hotel and all the rooms and all the expenses are over for me. It's just too much. And when we can do it virtually, it's not as good because you don't get to have that one-on-one contact with people, but we'll make it fun anyway.
Yes, absolutely.
So, and we'll get the message out to more people that way.
Yep.
Because everybody can't travel to Kansas City.
I know. And for me to assuage my needs, I'm really happy with small group. Like if I can go somewhere where somebody just wants to put together a group in their living room and you know, do it the old-fashioned neighborly way, like we used to in the psychic sorority. You know, we'd get 10, 20 people and just meet, and then all that conversation. So powerful. But yes, I'll be there.
All right. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your thoughts. It's just fascinating that you're able to speak to all of these different people and write books about it and do your music, and you're still doing your music, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you're still recording, still creating. If you ever need a bass player, let me know. I'll help you out.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we're going to start an NX band as soon as we can all get together in the same place. But yeah, would love to have you be a part of that. And your websites, gosh, you've got so many websites, synergyalliance.llc, and of course the others that we put up. Barbara, thank you so much.
Thank you, Margie.
All right, that is it for this evening, folks. We will be here again next week, and I appreciate you watching the show and being a supporter. Please like and subscribe so that we can keep the show going.